You're watching the Sega Driven YouTube channel, and this is our Sonic Amateur Games Expo 2023 coverage. In this video we're taking a look at Sonic USB Online, developed by Selphy Geumja. Now, this is an interesting little game. So it took me a little while to figure out what the hell was going on when I first played it, because it don't half run slow. Now, I do have to wonder whether or not that's just my computer, because this is a PC game, so obviously, depending on your build, depends on how well games perform. But considering I've run technically more advanced games than this on this PC, with better performance than this, I'm a little bit, not convinced by that. I did try playing the game offline and also without capture to see if it would increase the performance, and no, it really just run this slow, unfortunately. So again, mileage may vary because it all depends on, you know, your PC setup, but I've got to say this did feel like I was playing a game in slow motion, unfortunately. But what is here is a online 2D Sonic game inspired by Sonic CD. So when I say online, all that really means is that you'll see other player ghosts racing through the stage at the same time as you are. So yeah, there's obviously a time attack focus to this, so you want to be, you know, racing against other players online, which is a cool little thing, very unique. I don't think I've ever seen that in a Sonic game before. No, not to this level, whereas you can actually see the ghosts as you're racing as well. So that's really cool. I thought that was a nice little touch. Sonic controls really well. The stage design's pretty solid. Across the board, a nice mix of speed and platforming. I did find that one of the city stages later on really did just feel, especially towards the end of it, like you were just running straight on a flat path for a very, very long time with no bad nicks and nothing to interact with. So a little bit weak in that specific stage, but that was the only one I really found outside of another stage where I couldn't figure out how to progress. Now that might just be me, but I just couldn't figure out how to jump over this wall using tails, which it forces you to use at a certain point. You couldn't seem to make him fly for whatever reason. I tried all the controls on my joypad and it wasn't working. So yeah, that was the main barricade, unfortunately, from playing more of this. It does appear that there's a lot of game in here, so if I can figure out a way to progress further than that, then I will, and hopefully try and experience a little bit more of what this has to offer, because it's certainly an interesting concept. I love the idea of having a time attack online Sonic Racer to play with other people, but all the stages, you know, traditional sort of 16-bit Sonic stages with proper stage design and, you know, an actual end-of-level boss and stuff. So, yeah, there's a lot going for this. But like I say, the big thing that's letting it down is the performance. I can't quite figure out how to make it run faster. At the moment, it runs like it's in slow motion, which is not great, and I don't know if that's me, or if it is just, unfortunately, a case of loads of people are playing this all at the same time because it's Sage Week and it's causing the performance to really take a hit, which is a shame. This is kind of 3 games in one as well. In addition to the Sonic USB Online 2D racing stages, you have 2 games called Sonic ISO, which are isometric and play very much like Sega Sonic the Hedgehog Arcade. Using similar graphics, but the stages are themed around, you know, classic Sonic stages like Green Hill Zone and Chemical Plant. Those are difficult to control, unfortunately. The thing I was finding was that joypad controls, when I did the initial setup, worked great for the 2D stages, but anything else, they just completely deactivated. And I don't know whether they need to be activated individually, depending on what you're doing, but it's a bit strange that the game would go through a whole setup procedure where you actually map the joypad yourself and then just not have that mapped to every single game contained within. Very strange. Couldn't quite suss that out. And yeah, unfortunately, an isometric Sonic game using a keyboard as controls, not very comfortable, I've got to say. Had a real hard time with that. The other thing that was really letting down the Sonic ISO games is that for a lot of the time, it just didn't seem to recognise that I was pressing the jump key. So I just kept falling into pits, and it became very frustrating, and I just decided to stop playing that. I also need to mention that the joypad controls being deactivated during Sonic ISO also were deactivated during the boss and special stages as well. So yeah, anything that isn't the 2D time attack stages, basically they wouldn't work with joypad controls, even though I went through the setup procedure at the start of the game. So yeah, it was Sonic ISO 1 and 2, the bosses and the special stages all had to be played with the keyboard instead of the joypad, despite the fact that the joypad was active. Very odd. So yeah, lots of cool ideas in here. Execution, unfortunately, is a little lacking at the moment. I very much want to see more of this. I want to see it perform better, and I'd like to explore more of the stages and figure out like how to actually progress better. Because there's definitely a cool idea in here that isn't quite functioning the way I want it to just yet. And the less said about the Sonic ISO games, the better. I just think they're a little distraction. They are apparently online enabled as well, which is a fun little concept, but unfortunately they don't control well, and I can't seem to jump a lot of the time when I'm actually running at speed. So yeah, issues across the board, unfortunately. Yeah, cool concept, not quite working the way it should at the moment.